You're sitting somewhere right now, maybe on a train, maybe on a couch, and there's a song playing. You've heard it before, you know exactly what's coming, and then it happens anyway. The hair on your arms stands up. A wave moves across your skin, from the back of your neck down your shoulders, and for about 3 seconds you feel something you cannot name. Not happy, not sad, something that lives underneath both of those words. You shake it off, you turn the volume up. That reaction has a name. Scientists call it frisson, and it is one of the strangest things your body does, because it serves no purpose you can explain. You're not cold. You're not afraid. Nothing is threatening you, and yet your skin is doing exactly what it does when you step outside into a freezing wind, or hear something move in the dark at the edge of your vision. Here's what most people assume. It's just emotion overflowing into the body, a side effect of really liking the song. That assumption was wrong. Very wrong. Frisson is not a side effect. It is a signal. And once you understand what it was originally signaling, and to whom, you will never hear music the same way again. In 2009, archaeologist Nicholas Conard at the University of Tübingen was excavating a cave in the Swabian Jura region of southern Germany. The cave is called Geisenklosterle. Deep inside its layers beneath 43,000 years of compacted sediment, his team found fragments of hollow bone, the wing bone of a griffon vulture, split lengthwise and carefully shaped into a tube. When reconstructed, it was a flute. 5 finger holes, carved by hand, in a material that required patience and precision to work without shattering. It was the oldest musical instrument ever found. Not a drum, not a rattle, a wind instrument, something that requires breath control and practice to produce a consistent note. Think about what that means. 43,000 years ago, a human being in southern Germany sat in a cave and spent significant time making something that had no nutritional value, no defensive use, and no structural function. They made it to produce sound, organized sound, sound designed to be heard by other people. Conard's team found 2 more instruments in nearby caves from the same period. All of them were wind instruments. All of them showed evidence of careful craftsmanship. These were not accidental objects. They were made by people who understood acoustics well enough to hollow a bone at a precise angle to achieve a specific pitch. The question is, what were they doing with them? What was the sound for? To answer that, you have to go somewhere that still uses music the way those people used it. In 2008, ethnomusicologist Joseph Jordania at the University of Melbourne published a study of traditional cultures on 5 continents: the polyphonic singers of the Republic of Georgia, ceremonial groups in Papua New Guinea, warrior communities in sub-Saharan Africa, ritual gatherings in the Amazon basin. What he found across all of them was the same thing. Music was not entertainment. It was a technology. It was used specifically to synchronize the physiological state of a group of people, to bring their breathing into alignment, their heart rates together, their nervous systems coordinated. Not as a metaphor, literally. When a group sings or drums together in a sustained rhythm, cortisol drops, oxytocin rises, and individual stress responses begin to merge into a shared baseline. The boundary between self and group becomes neurologically thinner. Jordania called this the battle trance. He documented it in cultures with no contact with each other, using instruments made from different materials, in different scales, with different melodies. The form was different every time. The function was identical. Music was used to transform a collection of frightened individuals into a single coordinated organism, before a hunt, before combat, before a ritual that involved genuine mortal risk. The chills were not a byproduct of that transformation. The chills were the signal that it was working. That's why frisson hits hardest when music builds and then releases, when it creates tension and then delivers. That structure, long anticipation, held breath, arrival, mirrors the emotional arc of collective danger, the silence before the charge, the waiting at the tree line. Your body doesn't know you're in an apartment with headphones on. It hears the architecture of that sequence and responds the way it was built to respond, in a body that sat around fires for hundreds of thousands of years. The hair stands up. The skin says, "We are together. The moment is here." Picture someone right now, standing on a subway platform, headphones in, eyes closed for just a second as the chorus hits. They look slightly strange to the people around them. They don't care. For 3 seconds they are somewhere else entirely. That is not a quirk of modern life. That is a 43,000-year-old system running on new hardware. Here's what nobody talks about. In 2016, neuroscientist Stefan Kulsch at the University of Bergen in Norway completed a systematic review of every major neuroimaging study on music and the brain. He found something that had been sitting in the data for years, unaddressed. Music activates the same neural structures as human voice. Not approximately, not in overlapping ways. The secondary auditory cortex, the part of your brain that decodes the emotional content of speech, that tells you whether someone is calm or terrified, grieving or joyful, responds to music as if it were listening to a person. a person in a specific emotional state, a person who needs a response. At the level of automatic, pre-conscious processing, music sounds like someone talking to you. It sounds like someone communicating something urgent about how they feel, and your nervous system does what it always does when it receives that signal. It checks. It mirrors. It prepares to act in coordination with whatever that person is feeling. When the music resolves, when the tension drops and the phrase completes, your brain registers it exactly the way it would register a person calming down after distress, and it rewards you for having been there, for having stayed. This is why minor keys feel like grief and major keys feel like relief, even for people who have never been taught those associations, even for people who grew up without Western music theory. It is not cultural. It is not learned. Those patterns mirror the actual acoustic properties of a human voice under emotional load. A voice breaking with grief drops in pitch and becomes irregular. A voice alive with excitement rises and sharpens in rhythm. Music exploits those patterns across every culture ever studied, because music did not begin as music. It began as the emotional content of a human voice, extracted from words and played back at a scale, a volume, and a duration that one voice alone could never sustain. The flute from Geisenklösterle didn't play melodies the way you think of them. It produced breath, organized breath, sound that moved through a cave the way a voice moves through a dark room, finding the walls, finding the people in the dark, telling them something about the state of the person holding it. Think about this. Every human society ever studied makes music. Not all of them have writing. Not all of them have agriculture. Not all of them have formal religion. Every single one of them has music. And in every single one, music appears in the same moments. Grief, ritual, celebration, coordination before collective action. This is not cultural overlap. This is not coincidence. This is a description of a biological system so fundamental that it survived every migration, every climate collapse, every cultural reinvention the species has ever been through. The mechanism is solved. Dopamine release in the nucleus accumbens. Robert Zatorre at McGill University documented that in 2001, watching the same brain regions light up during musical chills as during eating and sex. The erector pili muscles contract. The skin responds. We know exactly which neurons fire and in what order. We cannot explain why it feels like something. Why, when a song reaches the moment you knew was coming, something in your chest opens. Why the dead come back in certain chord progressions. Why music heard alone in a dark room can make you feel, for 3 seconds, like you are surrounded by people who love you. The how is solved. The why is 43,000 years old and completely open. Tonight, you'll probably listen to something. On the train home, or while you're cooking, or lying in bed waiting for sleep. And at some point, the song will do the thing. The hair will rise. The wave will move across your skin. You will feel something underneath the feeling that you don't have a word for. For 3 seconds, your body will believe it is surrounded by people who feel exactly what you feel, that you are all breathing together, that the moment has arrived, that together you are ready. There is no group, there is no danger, there is no moment. But the bone flute is still there, 43,000 years later, under glass in a museum in Stuttgart. And the person who made it spent hours shaping it so that someone in the dark would feel exactly what you were about to feel. They succeeded.